Hello and welcome to Big Deal. I'm Nisha Poddar. Now, deepfakes have emerged as a new threat to democracy, says our IT Minister Ashwini Vaishnav. The minister has initiated a plan to draft the regulations to arrest the creation and virality of deepfakes. Now, this menace, which has been around for a while, but the technological advancement of generative artificial intelligence has given it a leg up in recent times, which has come on the radar of several governments. Now, to discuss this important topic, I have with me a team of experts joining me on the panel today. Let me welcome on the show Henry Ajder, who's a founder of Latent Space, joining from UK. And Henry is a well-known name globally on the tech evolution of artificial intelligence. Let me welcome on the show NS Nappinai, who is a Supreme Court advocate and founder of Cyber Saathi, is a legal expert on this subject matter. And last but not the least, Jaspreet Bindra, who's the founder and MD of Tech Whisperer, after having a stint as a CTO in Mahindra Group. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to CNBC-TV18. But let's first hear out India's IT minister's plan to regulate deepfakes.
दोनों पे रहेगी जिम्मेदारी और हम इसको नए रेगुलेशन को नए रूल्स के फॉर्म में भी ला सकते हैं, नए कानून के फॉर्म में भी ला सकते हैं या एग्जिस्टिंग रूल्स के अमेंडमेंट के फॉर्म में भी ला सकते हैं। क्लियरली डिसाइड हुआ है कि अगली मीटिंग हम दिसंबर के पहले वीक में करेंगे। दिसंबर के पहले हफ्ते में आज के जो डिसीजंस हुए उसके ऊपर फॉलोअप एक्शन क्या हुआ है, क्या कॉन्क्रीट एक्शनेबल आइटम्स निकले हैं और हमारा ड्राफ्ट रेगुलेशन में क्या-क्या जाना चाहिए, इस सब बातों पे अगला डिस्कशन फर्स्ट वीक ऑफ दिसंबर में होगा। वो आज तय हुआ है और तब तक सोशल मीडिया प्लेटफॉर्म्स ने और कंपनीज ने कहा कि हम बाकी जो कुछ भी स्टेप्स अपने आप अपनी पॉलिसीज और अपनी कंपनी की गाइडलाइंस के तहत ले सकते हैं वो हम लेंगे।
All right, so that was the minister talking about the plan to regulate deepfakes, and after a big meeting with all stakeholders, including global social media companies. Now, ma'am, I want to understand, what do you make of the minister's comments, and do you think this could be a foolproof solution?
Well, nothing can be really foolproof when it comes to technology, but it's a good start. Now, if we just expand to a lot of the other things that he mentioned, he talked about bringing in the 4 pillars in terms of detection, prevention, reporting, and awareness. And in that, he specifically talked about the use of watermarking as a means to identify the user who uploads deepfakes so that they can introduce this concept of accountability. Now, you've heard me repeatedly bat for this process, which is for transparency on one. It's not just watermarking should not be limited only to identifying the user, but also to the fact that it is a deepfake. Now, if you look at some of the trends in terms of laws in foreign countries, and specifically I would draw on New York in this, it says that one, you have to watermark it to show that it's a deepfake, and 2, manipulating that watermark by removing it or to as if to show it as if it's a real imagery is also an offense. So something similar would be needed. We need something, and we need it fast. And the reporting aspect which the minister talked about, if it is something which will give a specific button for reporting and which will enable expedited removal, that would be a welcome move.
All right. So, of course, it's needed immediately. And the minister also has put the entire regulation on a fast track, as he has put timelines to it. But one important thing he mentioned is that there could be even penalties on creators and the social media platforms which let deepfakes exist. Now, Henry, you have a global perspective. How big a menace is deepfakes for other countries, and what are the solutions being worked upon?
Yeah, so this is a truly global problem. Research I conducted back in 2019 found that this was an issue affecting all different regions of the world, from East Asia to South America to India and indeed Europe and the US. So this is something that's only become more and more prevalent as the tools have become commodified, they've become democratized, in particular open source tools. And I think this is one of the challenges, which is watermarking works well if you're a good faith actor, if you're trying to create content and introduce transparency. But when you're talking about open source tools from bad actors who are intentionally trying to cause harm, whether that's from deepfake, intimate image abuse, non-consensual pornography, or disinformation, there is going to be no incentive to introduce watermarks, and the tools they are using are not going to bake in watermarking into the tool sets themselves. So while watermarking might be useful if you're an artist or you're a creator kind of making, let's say, parody deepfakes that you don't intend to deceive people, when it comes to the people who are actually doing the malicious activities, this is really a case, in my view, of actually kind of punishing the saints and avoiding the sinners, so to speak. So whilst I think it's promising to see Indian legislators considering this approach, there are some pitfalls when it comes to legislating these specific harms, and it is incredibly challenging to do so effectively and to hold them to account.
That's right. India is also taking steps, and you acknowledge that. But I would say that in the absence of AI regulations moved by many other countries that we are seeing right now, in the absence of that, this is probably a late reaction. Jaspreet, how do you look at this? And, why is it becoming such a big menace now, while social media is being used for last 5 years at a heightened pace? And we have deepfakes exist also for such a long time. So why is it becoming a bigger menace now?
Yeah, thanks, Nisha. Yes, you're right. Deepfakes have existed for a long time. Initially, they were just, ways where AI experts could show off their AI expertise to others, but they took a darker turn. And most of the deepfakes, overwhelmingly, are actually related to pornography, unfortunately, targeting women. While they've been around, of late, we have seen a spurt because both the aspects, the creation and the virality, there's been an exponential developments in technology which have made making and spreading deepfakes that much easier. With AI, generative adversarial networks which create deepfakes, and now generative AI, as the name suggests, can be used to generate many things, including deepfakes. And importantly, generate them at scale. It just becomes so much easier. And then the virality, the social networks were strong, but they're, as we know, just becoming stronger and stronger. And people have discovered that they can, spread these around at the speed of light, literally. And that's the reason why we see many more of them now than we used to see earlier.
All right. So that's the reason of its prevalence now. But NS Nappinai, if I ask you about the legal remedies that are already existent in India, what are they where deepfakes can be tackled while we are still waiting for regulations which are focused on them?
Yeah, that's a very critical question. And when we're talking about awareness, it's really important for victims to know that they do have remedies under existing laws also. You have criminal remedies under Indian Penal Code and under the Information Technology Act. So where a deepfake results in nudity, partial or entirely, you can go under IPC, or in fact, since it's an online dissemination, I would suggest you go under IT Act. You have Section 67, which makes dissemination of obscene content an offense. And if it's sexually explicit, then you have 67A. And if a child is involved, you have 67B. Where it violates a person's privacy, then you have 66E of the IT Act. Apart from this, you have gender-specific provisions under the IPC, including outraging the modesty of a woman, which will be under 509. These are just some examples. So where, for instance, someone were to use a deepfake to extort money or even extort sexual favors or, threaten someone, then you can go under the extortion laws also. So depending on the facts of each case, you have provisions under existing laws and they need to be addressed. They need to be utilized rather, and enforcement implemented effectively so that it also acts as a deterrent when people cross the line between parody or satire and land in crime.
Right, and have they been used? Are there any precedents already set?
If you're talking about deepfakes, then that's a little difficult to answer. But if you're talking about manipulated imagery, then yes, you do have.
All right, you do have precedents on that. Now, Henry, I wanted to understand, can this issue be nipped in the bud with technological advancement on the prevention side? How can it be detected?
No, it can't, quite simply. Deepfake detection is a space that's been around for about 6-7 years now. This idea of using AI to spot AI where the human eye or ear no longer can do so reliably. The challenge is these models are not robust, that is, they're not reliable. And given the amount of money and research going into different kinds of generative techniques, the impact that things like compression, saturation of images, audio, and videos can have on the fidelity, that is just simply the amount of data these tools have to detect, it means that they are notoriously unreliable. Even if a tool say had 99.9% accuracy, the amount of content online, the volume of images and videos that are being uploaded daily on various social media platforms means that that's still a large amount of content being flagged as fake or as real when in fact it's the opposite. But I would add that particularly in the context of deepfake image abuse against women or non-consensual pornography, this side of things isn't really so important. The vast majority of deepfake pornography online is not hyper-realistic. It's not intended to fool people into thinking that it's real. People know when they're watching it and actively seeking it out that it is fake. What it's being used for is to still humiliate, to traumatize, to try and offend women and essentially scare them away from engaging in certain spaces, or to essentially steal their essential identity and their agency. So detection, watermarking for me are not really the approaches when it comes to deepfake image abuse that are going to be particularly useful. The better approach is going to be, for me, looking at, as discussed, trying to hold platforms to account to understand the communities that are sharing this content, making sure that there are pieces of legislation in place to go after creators specifically, and provide recourse for victims to seek justice in a way that doesn't kind of cause a lot more trauma and stress for those individuals.
All right. So, Henry, you've enumerated the various solutions that can be put forth to contain deepfakes, but we'll discuss how it can be executed, whether or not these are feasible, and where we stand globally and in India on this task of arresting deepfakes. We'll discuss all that and more on this interesting topic right after this short break. Stay tuned.